welcome to another educational video about screen printing by Catspit Productions. Today's video is a very ambitious video. This is my first time ever trying to show you anything about artwork, and what I'd like to do is look at some of the very basic functions of Illustrator. Okay, this is Illustrator 3, and I just wanted to show you some of the basic tools so that you can become a little bit more familiar with how to use Illustrator and how to create artwork with Illustrator. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is go up to File in the top left corner and create a new document. Okay, today we're just going to use my standard default setting of tabloid, 11 by 17 inches, and we're going to use landscape. Okay, so now we have a little document to work on, a little bit of a canvas. When you're in Illustrator, this is your tool bar right here. It can be docked over here, or it can be out floating around, but this is the toolbar, and the main tool you're going to have at default, or by default, is your selection tool. If you hold the space bar down while you're on the selection tool, it'll change into a little hand, and you can move the canvas around and place it nice and easily. That I like. Okay, now Illustrator is very complex, the tools are complex, so I'm going to briefly brush over some of the tools and just kind of show you where they are at the very least and kind of explain a little bit about what they do. But each tool can be very complex and have its own functions. So one of the main things you're going to do is be typesetting. You need a font, right? So the type tool is right here in the toolbar. And if you just click it, most of the time it's default, it's on type tool, and it will type just like in a word processing program, straight across from left to right. So I just did that. Now to select it, I'm still in the text mode, the type mode, font mode, and just click down and drag it over just like you were going to copy and paste in a word processing program. Okay, and then once you do that, you see it's selected. I know it's really small right now, but you can come up over here and you see here's the font itself we can choose, and here's the size. Let's get it a little bigger so that you can see it, and then we can look at some of the choices we can have. Bold, okay, for Myriad Pro, and then also we can actually click in here like this, get the little type thing to be blinking in here, and then use your scroll wheel on your mouse, and you can scroll down different fonts and actually see the text, what it looks like in the fonts. Okay, so this is a really cool way to search for a font that's going to be appropriate for the artwork that you're working on. Okay, so literally this could take you a lot of time. Let's just go with that. Okay, and then of course some fonts will not have bold or will not have choices, so you know, depending on the font you choose, you may not have bold or italic or condensed or anything. It could just be like this one where there's no choice at all, it's just regular. Okay, so now I have that. I'm going to go back to my selection tool so that I can move this around. Okay, now let's see, where do I go from here? This is very complex. There are a couple ways to size your fonts. First of all, you can use this box right up here, the font size. You can select the font, make sure it's selected, go up in here and click into it, and you can actually type what font size, all right? And to make it take, you got to click outside of that box. So click on the document. See that? And then it went big. Now I can go back, select it again, and it's 100 points. Now, there are two other ways you can size a font like this, or text like this. You have two tools. There is the scale tool right here, and then right below that you have the free transform tool. These tools are similar, but can do different things. The scale tool will have an anchor point. Wherever the anchor point is, and here it is, as soon as you select the scale tool, all right, you have the object selected. We have Catspit selected. We go over to the scale tool, click it, and immediately it's going to drop this anchor right here. So the anchor is kind of like a point from which the scale will occur. So if you put it in the center and then scale, it's more symmetrical, I guess I should say. If the anchor is somewhere else, it can flip, it can do a lot of weird things. You know, I don't know why they actually make the anchor be positionable. Like, I can put it over here. You see that? I don't know. So basically the anchor will work best when it's towards the center of the font. Okay, and then you can scale, and it works a lot better. Like, it doesn't, you know, get crazy on you. Okay, now another thing to note with the scale tool, I do believe that if you choose the scale tool and hold down the shift button, you can put the anchor in the middle, hold down the shift button, and what it does is it causes it to scale symmetrically. You know, it's supposed to make it scale without distorting the original shape. Okay, so that's something that you can experiment with. Now, there's also free transform, as I mentioned. Free transform is a little bit different because it can allow you to crunch things. This one here will allow you to manipulate the font a little bit differently because you can stretch it and do different things with it. Crunch it, stretch it, stuff like this. See that? Okay, so that's the free transform tool. Alright, so basically so far what I've shown you is here is your type tool or your font tool, typesetting, and then the scale tool right here, and the free transform tool. Okay? Now, another tool that can be handy for you is the rotate tool. Now, make sure your object is selected, go over here, click rotate tool, and again, this one has an anchor point. Depending on how you want to rotate this object, your anchor point will be, you know, a factor. Today, I'm just going to tilt it upwards. So let's leave the anchor point right here, and then I'm going to grab it over here and just tilt it up on that anchor point. Okay? So now you can look at it and you can come back like, oh, it's a little, you know what, I don't really like it. I come back to free transform, and I'm going to squish it back down. Okay? See that? Go back to selection, and I can move it, and here it is. Alright, so there you go. We've got the text tool, type tool, font tool, whatever you want to call it. You've got the scale tool, the free transform, and rotate. Okay? Now, how else can you create objects in Illustrator, right? I just showed you a little bit about how to do typesetting. And believe me, I showed you very little about how to do typesetting because before we go on to shapes, I will make you aware that the type tool, say we want to do other things with typesetting and fonts, the type tool actually has other tools. We use the top one up here that is type tool. There are other choices for this, and depending on which one you choose, some of them work independently by themselves and others will need a shape to work on. For instance, type on a path tool. I'll show you that one after we show you how to create a shape. Okay? So first, let's create a shape. I have nothing selected on my canvas. I'm going to come over to this box that's directly below the type tool. And right now it's on ellipse. If you click it and hold it down, you will notice that you have a choice of rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star, flare, or whatever other shapes that your version of Illustrator may have loaded. Okay? Today we'll use the ellipse tool just to show you that we can make shapes. We'll actually go through a couple of shapes, but we're going to end up with the ellipse because the ellipse tool we can use with the font, the type tool, so that I can show you a little way how you can create different fonts. All right, this gets complicated and confusing, and I have to jump around a little bit. Okay, so try to follow me here. So now I created the rectangle tool, or I didn't create the rectangle tool, I chose the rectangle tool. Okay, here it is, it's right here, you click it. I come over here and I'm going to click down on the canvas and drag. And as I drag, it will create a rectangle. Now, I have to show you a little bit about how to manipulate the rectangles first. Okay? Now, after I created the rectangle, I went right up here and I got my selection tool. Okay? Now the object is selected. What if I wanted this box to have a red outline and a black fill? Alright, what we call this is a fill and stroke. That's what it's called in Illustrator. So when you go over here, you have the object selected right here on your screen, and then you go over here and you see this? Fill, stroke. And it says click to activate. Here's my fill. Let's show you that. Let's say we want the fill to be blue. So I double clicked on this. Okay, I went over here to fill, double click. It opens it up. Right here is my spectrum. You can click in here to change your choices. And let's say, you know, just this gray blue, whatever. See? Now, I want an outline or a stroke. So we come back over here. The object is still selected. Come back over here, click the stroke, double click it, opens up the window, and now I can change it to, let's do red, just so you can see it. Now, it's red, but it's really, really thin. So, in order to beef up that stroke, the object is still selected, and I'm going to move over here to the right, where I see in my window here, you see this? Stroke and weight. Now I'm going to click upwards. And there is the stroke. We have a red stroke and a blue fill. Okay? So that's a simple object. Now, you can do that with any of these objects. And once you set some characteristics, when you go and create a new object, it's going to duplicate those characteristics just for convenience. The programmers thought that would be convenient. I guess it is. I don't know. But anyway, let's show you how to combine the font with an object. Why does the font have so many different font choices? The type tool. Type on an area, type on a path, vertical type, this type, that type. What are those all about? Well, they allow you to do different types of fonts or different types of typesetting. You know, we got to manipulate the font, right? Well, one way is we can rotate it like we did with this one, and we can do all that kind of stuff. But we can also type on a path. So let's choose this object over here. We're going to choose this circle that we just created. I'm going to go back up to the type tool, click and hold down, and then go down here and get type on a path tool. And I'm really sorry about the phone in the background. Okay, I forgot to turn that off. Okay, so that really distracted me, and now I don't know if I showed you what I was doing there. But this is type on a path tool, and what I did was, I had the object selected, and then I clicked on the object. Alright, let me see if I can, let me get back. Okay, let's go back and do that again. I'm sorry about that phone ringing. That's what happens when you're winging everything and doing it by yourself. Alright, so we have the object selected. Select the object, and then go up to type, scroll down a little, go on to type on a path. You have type on a path, and you're going to come over to the object, and right about where you want it to start typing, click. And there it is. Now you can type. Okay, now this tool can be difficult to work with. You have to really mess with it a little bit to get things spaced properly. I'm not a master of Illustrator, so you know, all these things you have to experiment with. Okay, so there's that function, and obviously you see what it did when I typed on a path. It took all the properties of that particular object out. I don't know why it does that by default, but that's, you know, it's okay. And if I wanted to, you know, mess with this a little bit, we could use the rotate tool. Okay, move it around a little bit, then we might be able to change the shape. See how you change the shape of the ellipse so it changes the curve? Then we go back to rotate. We might need to change it back a little bit. You know, so you can mess around with fonts in many different ways. Illustrator is a little bit difficult in working with fonts, but you can do it. Here's type vertical. Okay, so there's type vertical. All right, and all right, let's see. Now, I'll show you just a couple more tools in this video before the phone rings again. Okay, first of all, here's the pen tool right up here. Pen tool. The pen tool can create lines. Okay, here's a line, and if you want to get build it up, you need, you know, get the stroke. Remember, any object that you create or shape can have the fill and the stroke. So as soon as you create the object, it's selected, you can come over here, get the stroke, then go over here to the right side and beef it up. See? So there's a line I just created. So now I can take that, copy and paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, as many times as I need a line. See that? Okay. Now the pen tool can also do shapes. Okay? And basically you just close the shapes. So the pen tool can make all kinds of odd shapes. You can create your own. Here's like a star, sort of. Star. Look at my deformed attempt at a star with the computer. Like, I might be able to do that by hand. Can I do this? Let's see. Hold on a second. Can you actually make a star with this? If I do a point here, it comes down here, go like this, right? Go like this. You just have to be wary of what you're doing. Here we go. Kind of, oops. There you go. There's a deformed star. Okay. So the shape tool, or the pen tool rather, can do some stuff too, right? And then once you create the object, don't forget you've got the fill and stroke. Remember, fill, and there's your stroke. Okay, and there's an object that we just created. Okay, now we're working. As you can see, I'm way off of my document size. But that's okay. If you were creating art, you want to be sized down to the document. You don't want to be all giant like this. So here I could use scale, shift, and try to bring it down without distorting it too much. I don't know if that worked. Okay. And you can bring things down to the shape or size of your canvas. Okay. All right, now I'll show you one more tool in this little demo. This is like, this is really hard because Illustrator is amazingly complex. There's so many things you can do, but basically you've got the pencil tool, which can draw lines, shapes. You can do a lot with the pencil tool, okay? And then you also have the paintbrush tool, which is great for creating swerves and stuff, like if you need an underscore type thing or curves and stuff like that. It's really cool. And then, yes, there are ways to manipulate this shape even further, but we're not going to go into that today. Okay? You can actually take this shape that you created and manipulate it further. You can also do the same thing with the pen tool. The pen tool is one of these objects that will have an ability to manipulate anchor points on these lines and manipulate the shapes, okay? But that's a little complex, so I'll show you one more, okay? Line segment tool, basically you just select the line segment, you click down, and you basically tell it what line you want, how long and what degree of an angle, and it creates the line. Okay? I think that's it for this video. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. I'm not even sure if this is useful to you. So I'm going to make some more like this, and we'll see, you know, how much we can teach you about Illustrator. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really appreciate your time and attention. If you like what you see, please rate thumbs up, comment below, and very importantly, subscribe. I need your help, your support, to keep going and keep producing videos for you free on YouTube forever, right? You guys don't want me to stop, right? So subscribe, comment below, rate thumbs up, all that stuff helps me keep going. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.